Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Rayo and Tech. I hope everyone's doing well. Today, I have another video of my CYB 610 course. In the previous lab, we worked with different types of penetration testing tools, which were used in terms of vulnerability scanning. So this is very similar. We have a couple new tools which we've been asked to use, and I have a couple screenshots to kind of show you not only what I've used, but also some of the best tools in terms of ethical hacking and penetration testing. So, pretty good concept. Excited to show you guys what I've learned so I can kind of share the knowledge. Yeah, if you guys like the video, just like, comment, subscribe if you like. Other than that, stay blessed. Let's get into it. First things first, we were asked to use the Nikito tool. This tool is known for being a type of tool where it's able to kind of scan something within a network. And so, what I've done in terms of the screenshot was I opened up the Chioptrix level 2 machine. And from there, using the Keto to scan the Chioptrix level 2 machine. So you're wondering, why did I do that? Because the Chioptrix number 1 and number 2 are different ways of testing vulnerabilities. It's almost like a sandbox type of environment. And so this would technically be the first step of conducting a vulnerability assessment, is the reconnaissance. So by being able to see which port which it was on, which was port 80, I was able to kind of see what I can use. And since it's more of a web application, I can also determine from there what the next steps would be. So it's a very useful tool. I got it launched through Kali Linux, and I was able to, pretty much just find what I needed to and conduct it from there. So very useful tool. All these tools are free, by the way. You just have to go to make sure you have Kali Linux downloaded, make sure that it's updated, and then run the Nikito tool, and you should be able to work. All right. The next type of technology is the OWASP Zap. And so this is a very nice tool because it provides real-time vulnerability scans. So it's able to not only scan the IP address, but it also is able to scan the given port. And so when it scans, what it does is it looks for potential vulnerabilities which may be active within that IP address. And from there, it gives you kind of an indication of the alerts, so it can show different types of attack vector points. This is a very nice tool in terms of penetration testing, because what happens is you see it will continue to be used as a way to see what active vulnerabilities are within like a system, within like an application. If something's being ran locally in terms of a testing environment, it can be used for different types of scenarios. So it has a lot of flexibility. And so, if you look at my snippets on the left here, so the way it worked was you open up the OWASP application, and then from there, you are able to decide which URL to attack. And so you could like test it out by putting in like your Chioptrix. You can put in like any other URL, and from there you run the automated scan. And what that does is that it brings up, once the scan is done, there's an alert menu, and so you click on that, and you can see the different types of alerts which are active within the actual scan once it's done. And so, very useful tool. It's kind of similar to the previous tool, but this has a lot of like differences at the same time. So that's just part one. And then part two, in addition to that, it mentioned different ways of the vulnerabilities being mitigated. So once you're able to see the alerts, you can understand the best ways of being able to create prevention measures at the same time. So Very useful tool. Also in Kali Linux as well. So majority of the time they're using Kali Linux to use these like ethical penetration like testing tools. Super useful, super helpful. All right. The third tool is the Nessus tool. And so the Nessus tool is known for being like another type of vulnerability scanner. So there's kind of like patterns going on here. So there's different types of vulnerability scanners you could use, but also they have a lot of specificity regarding what to use them for. And so with Nessus, the main thing which I was using this for in terms of scanning was scanning web applications. So being able to, like, as I mentioned with the OWASP Zap, being able to put in IP addresses and then scan it from there. And so once launched, if you notice, it was only launched on the local host port 8834. I don't remember that exact port, what it does, but at the end of the day, it's still valid. So, yeah, you run it through that port. It brings up the main web UI. Click on web application interface, and then from there you create your scan. And so I created my scan with the Keyoptrix machine by putting in the Keyoptrix IP address as well as like just a description of what it does. And then once you're done, you click on it, it gives you back the results. And so with mine, I was able to run everything, and I was able to see that there weren't any active vulnerabilities. Um, but you can see this and test it out with different types of applications and different networks as well. So that's just kind of like a demonstration of how the tool does work for Nessus. Now it's going to be a lot more like documentation and like questioning. So in comparing and contrasting Nikito versus OWASP, as I mentioned earlier, Nikito is known for being used for assessments and testing in web servers. It also has a command line interface that can be helped with testing being automated. So it's very helpful if you have like a lot of testing, which you need to do for a lot of like web servers which you're maintaining. Let's say if you're like maintaining the board of California, and you have all these different sites, being able to automate that would make it a lot easier. OWASP is known for being used for assessments and testing of web applications. And so Nikito is more for the servers, and then OWASP is more for the applications. It's very beneficial for development areas of the applications because since it's being used for web apps, there's a lot of developments in the actual cycle of it. And so it also supports client-side testing at the same time. So identify and summarize CSRF. This is known as cross-site request forgery. It's a type of security vulnerability where actions are operated at a secured level of false acceptance of authentication. So what that means is that a system may think that it might be a valid user, but what happens is that they're able to perform different types of like operations like reading, writing, deleting, updating without proper authentication. And so that's very bad because it means someone's in your system. In addition, with attacks, these type of attacks create malicious requests in which consequences can occur, including more attack vectors, which means that they can spread something like a worm, which they'll be able to infect one area of like a network and then be able to spread to different areas. The best mitigation methods that can be used for this is proper programming as well as CSRF tokens. So pretty much what that means is that having good proper programming methods just to ensure that there's proper authentication, it doesn't like leak out any data, and also these tokens are very beneficial and helpful. The next one is CSRF. Abbreviation's wrong. It's XSS. Pretty much that's known as cross-site scripting, which is a type of security vulnerability which attackers use to inject malicious code onto web pages. So this is very common when you see a lot of web pages like websites with databases. I'm sorry, I fumbled my words there. Websites with databases. you see what happens is when you have a database, you enter in information and that pulls information from the database. And then from there, you should be able to make sure that it's valid, and then you're able to log onto your information. So this type of attack is when someone puts malicious code, they'll try to get sensitive information like data to be resulted from the input which is put. So instead of putting in like their name, they put in a malicious script. And so this can affect not only that web application, it can also affect web servers as well. And so the best mitigation techniques that are used in terms of input validation is making sure that your cookies are secured, and also HTTP is very helpful. And so that kind of summarizes cross-site scripting, and then the other one's cross-site request forgery. So both different types of attacks, they do different types of things. At the same time, it's still something to watch out for. So based off of that, you can kind of see some of the list of like the top 10 vulnerabilities, and I got this from the OWASP website. So you see that SQL injection is the one which we mentioned earlier, of injecting SQL commands. Broken authentication, which means that the person has access and they're not supposed to have it. Sensitive data exposure, that pretty much means that sensitive data can be exposed without the consent of the user. XML entities, which these are pretty much, I would say these are like independent files which have like instructions of stuff, what to do, and they could also like corrupt a lot of different areas. So we also have like broken access control, security misconfiguration, cross-site scripting, insecure de-sterilization, use components of known vulnerabilities, and insufficient logging and monitoring. These are all different types of vulnerabilities which could occur if not addressed at the same time, if not fixed. So it's very important to understand that if you prevent these vulnerabilities, you're able to have a better chance of securing a network and making sure that you're securing money. It's like a big financial loss in terms of like damage control, what needs to be done once a company is hacked. So this is very beneficial. Some general information, pretty much using my scan as a base. Select the vulnerability, provide a hypothesis how it actually came to be, research the vulnerability. So looking at it, there's a vulnerability talking about cross-site scripting. Pretty much, I've mentioned it's known for being a lack of poor programming practices and a lack of user input. So this is usually in the overall code base itself. And so being able to have proper like coding practices will make it a lot easier, and you'll be able to find this type of vulnerability less and less, but it was picked up on the scan. So the next one is utilizing my knowledge of the vulnerabilities and attack vectors find. What would I hypothesize? So for me, I mainly was thinking about injection, and I was like, injection attacks are mainly used for the technique of like SQL injection to insert malicious code. This paired with cross-site scripting are different ways of gaining access to a system, because you think that only like one could occur, but when multiple types of attack vectors are available in different areas which could be breached, it gives a higher chance for the attacker to breach itself. So that's why it's very important to understand why this is something which needs to be not only secure, but also at the same time something which needs to be regularly checked. And so one thing which I would also add to the general information is conducting like security audits and vulnerability testing, because being on top of your security is very beneficial. It will help everyone else around you, and it will just make sure that no matter what, you're at least checking and testing the security of your corporation. That's the reference which I have from OWASP. Other than that, yeah, that's my little presentation. Happy to finish kind of giving you guys some insight of it. If you guys have any other questions, just like, comment, subscribe. I think there's 2 more videos left of this course. So once that's done, I'm gonna polish them up a little bit and then add some more content to it. Other than that, I appreciate everyone. Stay blessed. Rayo and Tech out.